I love learning about worlds I don't know anything about, and I find it very humbling. So this was a journey into, bull riding and the world of bull riding. And anytime I think you walk into a very specific world, there's something about it that hopefully radiates out and is universal.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a retired rodeo legend risks it all to save his grandson in director Jon Avnet's drama, The Last Rodeo. The film tells the story of Joe, a retired rodeo star who enters a high-stakes bull riding competition to save his grandson. Along the way, he reconciles with his estranged daughter and proves that true courage is found in the fight for family. In addition to The Last Rodeo, Avnet's other directorial credits include the feature films Three Christs, Righteous Kill, 88 Minutes, and Fried Green Tomatoes, and episodes of Justified City Primeval, Sneaky Pete, and Boomtown. He was nominated for the 2001 DGA Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Movies for Television and Miniseries for Uprising, and again in that same category for his 2007 miniseries, The Starter Wife. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Avnet spoke with director Jason Reitman about filming The Last Rodeo. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Hey, John.
Hey, Jason. How are you?
Thank you for that movie.
Thank you.
I have to admit that I came in thinking this is going to be fun. It's going to be a sports movie. And then it completely emotionally overwhelmed me.
Good. That's the goal. And you know what it's like as a filmmaker. You're sort of always going, does it work? Does it work? Does it work?
I have so many questions about this. I want to start with how this project came into your life and what made you want to make this film.
Well, first of all, I think, if I may, a couple of the actors are here.
Oh, no kidding.
Neil, are you here? There's Neil McDonough back there who...
Bravo.
Sarah Jones, are you here? Is Sarah here? Oh, great. Michael T?
No way.
Yo, T. Did I miss anybody? I can never tell. Anyway, I just wanted to thank them. So in answer to the question, it started with the knucklehead in the back, the big Irish mug, Neil, who wrote a script with his writing partner, Derek Presley, and they gave me the script. And it was, about something I knew nothing about, as usual, bull riding. And there were a couple things in it that I really liked. And particularly was Neil's conceit about his character not being a character of faith. Because Neil is a person of faith. He's very devout. And I thought if it was about that, it would be a hat on a hat. It would be hard for me to figure out how to tell a story as opposed to a guy who, in a way, was a lost angel, and just a very troubled guy. So Neil wisely, I think, said to me, make it your own. And, it's amazing how a phrase like that, how meaningful it can be before you embark on 2 years of work, because it gave me the freedom to try to figure out what story I could tell.
What did that mean to you, make it your own? And I'm curious specifically also about your relationship with faith and how that played into this film.
Well, it was less for me about my relationship with faith, because I have great respect for faith, and I think it's a wonderful thing if you have it. And I respect people who have it, and I think, by the way, our world would be better if people respected people who come from different views. And I love Neil, and he's not someone who's just talks the talk. He's a family man. He goes to church and he does good things. And the most important thing to me in life is doing good things. The reason that I wanted to make movies was to move people and, if possible, make them less likely to do bad things, as simple as it sounds.
Yeah. It's really interesting because there's two things happening in this movie simultaneously, where the movie has a relationship with faith, but the movie also has a relationship with time. And those two things are really intersecting. And in a weird way, I feel like that's what movies are. And, movies are always questioning your sense of faith and questioning your sense of time. And that's what we're playing with. And I'm wondering if that was a conscientious thing, or is that something that just kind of happened along the way?
Well, no, first of all, a lot of this stuff is discovery, self-discovery, discovery from the people you collaborate with. But faith is a remarkable thing because it's believing in something you can't see. And I become very close with one of the guys who was the principal scientist at the NIH who developed the mRNA vaccine, which saved millions and millions of lives. There were many people involved. And he's a person of deep faith, as was Francis Collins, who was head of the NIH. And Barney, his name is Dr. Barney Graham, would say that, talking about faith, to him it was similar to science because he spent his life looking at these particles that were so small, you actually can't really see them. And yet he would work with them and he'd create, the 2-piece stabilization, which allowed the mRNA to come and hit the protein and save 25 million lives.
Right.
You can't see it. So there's a relationship between faith and science, which I found really, really interesting.
Well, directing also is a measure of faith. There's this presumption that somehow you're going to bring all these people together, you're going to shoot this movie, you're going to cut it together, you're going to put some music under it, and then it's going to make someone feel something.
Well said.
And I have to admit, when you told me you were going to make a movie about bull riding, my first thought that goes through my head is, that's my pal, Jew from Brooklyn, Jon Avnet, off to make his bull riding. But then I think about your first movie and I'm like, oh, that's right. You've been a curious person. You've been an explorer. That's part of your life as a storyteller.
It is. And I love learning about worlds I don't know anything about, and I find it very humbling. And so this was a journey into, bull riding and the world of bull riding and the bull riders and the wranglers and the guys who own the bulls and the bulls and the PBR and this whole world that could have passed me by, easily. And anytime I think you walk into a very specific world, there's something about it that hopefully radiates out and is universal. And to the extent possible, I like specific worlds to get to specific characters, to get to general universal emotions, if that makes sense.
And just what does that process look like? Like, I'm curious, like on this film specifically, what does your arrival in Oklahoma feel like? How do you start to actually understand this world so you can tell a story as though you know it deep down, as though you've been doing this your whole life?
Well, first of all, if you want to direct movies for the theaters, you must enjoy public humiliation, right? And so this is in my DNA. I went to a bull riding event. Wait, is Kip Conweiser here? This is our producer who did a fantastic job and who ran with me. He's also a DGA member. But we went out, we met people, we talked to people. They started a combination of looking at stuff and experiencing it. I went with Neil and one of the producers up there named Ruve McDonough, as well as Neil. And, and you watched and you looked at it and you go, what's that? And then you ask people about it and then you make a fool of yourself. You write stuff down and then you show it to the guy who runs the PBR, Sean Gleason. Mm-hmm. And he says, no. And then you go, okay, until you stop getting no's.
Right.
And then you're close. But there's one thing we did, like, the shot when Neil or the PBR guys walk up that chute.
Yeah.
I really like that shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I repeated it 3 times because I'm so imaginative.
That is true. You kind of realize when a director loves a shot, right?
I'm
see
guilty
how many
of it.
times they cut to it.
Yeah, no, I did that once with Redford on the circular staircase that I had designed. Anyway, this was something that would not happen in a real, a PBR event because the riders would be on the bucking chute. But I love this.
Right.
And when I shot it, I went, God, he's so good. I mean, part of what I wanted to do in this movie is prove to people that Neil's a leading man. I mean, he's been doing all this great work. Yeah. He's been in all these movies as a villain. He's such a good actor. He reacts. You get that lady, Sarah Jones, up there whacking away at him, or Michael T. You just look at his face. You know it is. You can play a scene off a good actor's face when they say nothing. So, Neil was sort of the prototypical person to me to do this. And when we were doing it, I said to him, Sean said that we'd never do this. And then when I looked at the shot, I went, he's going to change the way they shoot PBR. He's going to incorporate the shot because it's a good shot. I mean, shades of Ridley Scott, the long lens.
How do you start planning out shooting inside a bull ring? I mean, that was another thing that got me, that I didn't realize. I don't think I realized, okay, this could be exciting. And then all of a sudden, each time each one started, and he would give that look. He gives that grimace look like, oh, this is going to hurt. And then the gate flies open, and then you cut down to those shots where you're right there with the hooves. And then you had the beautiful clock shot, and whoever did the sound design of the clock was fantastic. And it's absolutely thrilling. Is this start with storyboarding? Is this start with you're just sitting there like in the ring trying to figure this out?
It starts with panic.
Okay.
Because first of all, one of the things that Sean Gleason said at the PBR is that he's never seen a good close-up on a bull ride. And I looked at a couple movies, and I went, yeah, he's right. And I thought, well, why don't they work? And I went, oh, I don't know. And then I thought, well, how do you capture what it's like to be on a bull? And I said, okay, I'm going to get a 600 millimeter lens. I'm going to shoot really tight so I can see the face. And then I went, that's just recording it. It doesn't have a visceral or cinematic element to it. And so I was lost as to how to do the most basic thing, the close-up, if you will, right? And then one day, Neil and Buddy Joe Hooker, is Buddy Joe here, the greatest stunt man in the world? Buddy Joe! Yeah, Buddy Joe, Cal, hey. So Buddy Joe, we went out to this guy Kyle Sherwood's house with his dad, and he was riding on the bucking machine. Yeah. And as he was doing it, I took out my little iPhone and I started moving the camera.
Right.
Yeah. So as soon as you move the camera, guess what?
Right.
It's the camera moving, not the guy on the bull moving.
Right.
And it's what you don't see as opposed to what you do see.
Yeah, that shot that you do from straight down, you do it a couple times. You're over them, and it feels like you're riding the bull yourself.
Oh, the point of view one?
Yeah,
that was cool. Yeah. I thought that was really good. Because you do this, you just laugh at the problems, like getting the right color bull for the point of view shot. Oh my God! Of course, the bulls are all different colors, and we had to make them the right color. I mean, it's endless.
How are you making the bulls? Are you painting the bulls? What are you?
Basically,
really?
It's either 2D or 3D paint. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, because when we went to shoot, Neil, you ready for this? We had 2 days to shoot the bulls, and we had a lot of camera positions. And
wow.
Denis Lenoir, who is my cinematographer I work with all the time, is fantastic. Denis is just great. And so 2 days, and we needed effectively 7 rides of our heroes, 3 and 4, right? And we needed 3, 4, or 5 rides, if we could, of each of the 7 rides.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Dalen Swearingen, who plays Billy, broke his ribs before he showed up.
Great.
Yeah. And this is not atypical. And what the character Neil plays is very accurate in terms of that kind of pain they're in and what they're willing to overcome. And, it's similar to other sports, but perhaps more extreme in some ways. So he couldn't do all the rides we needed him to do. Okay. So what do you do?
Right.
Again, after you howl at the moon like Allen Ginsberg would, right? You go...
you put the helmet on yourself and you're like, give me the bull, let's go.
I put the helmet on myself and go, okay, I'm going out of here. I'm leaving. I'm quitting. So we shot the best we could, and it was just a disaster. They were coming out of the wrong shoots, the wrong color. We couldn't get any matching. You could only get 1 or 2 people who could ride with a hat because you have to be grandfathered in in order to ride with the hat, even when you're shooting for a film.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it was just literally a nightmare. And one of the only good things about getting older and doing these movies is, when stuff literally falls apart, I get really quiet. I calm down.
Really?
Yeah. And by the way, it's a form of panic, but it's just saying, okay, I've got to solve the problem. That's all I can do. So I'm looking at this thing thinking, okay, what the hell am I going to do? And I thought, okay, well, good luck, VFX time. We're going to have to figure out how to make these rides consistent. And then we had one other thing, which was our editor, Tom Costantino, happens to be my son-in-law. This guy, I can never get him to work for me because he only works for Seth MacFarlane because Seth is smart and won't let him do anything else. He cut the bull riding and he did a brilliant job.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And he also was fearless in terms of using the wrong bulls to make the scenes right.
Yep.
And then basically said, okay, we have to fix it.
Yeah. Cut the right movie.
Exactly. And that's a really interesting way of saying it. Cut the right movie. Right. Don't worry about what it isn't.
Yep.
Figure out what it is and then make it work. And that's pretty much what we did. Now, some of it had some conceptual elements where I thought, it's like, okay, what's maybe the greatest battle sequence? Saving Private Ryan, landing on So at one point, it's very noisy, brilliantly designed. He goes underwater, you hear nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it literally gives you the ability to retune your ears and makes you almost lean forward.
Right.
And I thought, can we do that with the bull riding? Because there are various visceral elements to the sound design, like the hits, the bass hits when the hooves hit the ground.
The sound is fantastic in this film.
I think, well, that's Mike Perricone. I don't know if he's here, but he is. He is so talented. I've worked with him quite a bit. We had no money. So, the sound design was Tom, Justin, Bart, Rackmel. I mean, those are two of our assistant editors. And basically Mike and his team over there. And they just, you know what it is? When you love stuff, you just go crazy to do it as well as you can.
Well, that's why this job is really just an addiction. And the DGA is really just a giant AA meeting. What was your best day on set? What was your worst day on set?
The best day on set, when Sarah Jones and the two scenes, when Sarah Jones did the scene in the hospital, I mean, Jonesy I've worked with her a lot of times. She is so talented and she's so smart. And she's, she had great ideas about the character. And because I'm so damn smart, I just listened. and you know what? She understood this character. She understood a Southern woman. She brought so much to it. And it was all before we got there. And by the way, because we've worked together and she has respect for me, it wasn't easy for her to do that. To basically say, this, I need this. Would this be better? I mean, and I just listened and it was really great. And then when it came time to do it, she was there. And that scene in the hospital, with these cockeyed rhythms that I write, and somehow or another, it just rolls off of her mouth. I can't figure out how she does this, And she was there. And it was, I thought, well, just don't screw up the first take with the camera. I mean, you get the camera in the right place, you know what I mean? And Neil again and Michael T, they're so professional and experienced that they dance with the camera off camera.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that was that day. And when Michael T did the scene in the diner, where, I mean, again, the same thing, I wrote the stuff, gave it to T. He mumbled something, then he wrote me something back, and then we went back and forth, and he owned it, and he showed up there. And the only thing I did was the blocking. I had him get up and leave and then come back and put the chair there.
Yeah.
Because I thought, it sort of says in a very simple way, I'm not finished with this, and I got something. And then when he walked away at the end and we stayed with him, you know what I mean? Now, with T, he's always there. I mean, again, I've worked with him so many times. It's like I start to say something and he does it. Neil, I can't even get the words out. He just knows what I'm thinking and just ignores me and then does it. And then he looks at me, is that what you wanted, John? And I go, yeah, thank you.
That's also a tough piece of acting. I have to hand it to you. Those moments where the director's just like, all right, now I just want you to stand here and think. That's so hard to make real and to make natural.
Well, I don't even think I even said anything. I think I just, again, you know what it's like. With T, he just walked there and I went, oh, he's there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Make this moment be on him.
Right.
And because it was really critical to me that we understood who he was. And this was the big idea of the film, the damage of Neil's character. You know, obviously he lost, you know, his wife, but he refused to pull himself out of it. And mourning for most people is a very imperfect thing. And there's no real guide to it by and large. But look at all the people he hurt. I mean, it was a selfish, very kind of almost narcissistic world, you know, and he hurt T as a person, and T, you know, his character, you know, was at a very low point, you know, and that wasn't on, you know, Joe's, you know, radar. So in order to see if there's any way to restart the friendship, you got to go and expose yourself to the pain of what you did and who you hurt, especially if it's people, you know, who you putatively love, right?
It's such a tough thing to do, I think, as a storyteller, because you know the audience wants to get to the bull riding. Like in any movie, you know the audience wants to get to the thing, and you have to make them earn it, and it has to be pleasurable through the earning. I thought the scene where his daughter also takes us through everything that she went through when he hurt himself was extraordinary.
That's the scene in the hospital. That's Sarah.
That's a killer.
I mean, that's just Sarah. She is.
What was the worst day on set?
Worst day on set. I think when the bulls didn't do what they were supposed to do on the first day,
right?
You know, there was this moment where, you know, the inner monologue was like, "What are you doing, Jon?"
Right.
You know, how are you going to get yourself out of this one? Because, you know, we've all been Houdini on the set, making movies, right?
Yeah.
This one, you know, at that point, I literally just went, huh. You know, how can I move this bull to this thing? How do I get a hat on a person who doesn't have a hat? How do I get his person to look this way? I mean, it's like, it was such a, you know, a large problem that the only way I know how to approach it is in increments.
How did you just even approach this from a safety point of view? I mean,
safety was
writing these. Who are writing these bulls? I mean, how is this happening?
PBR writers. The PBR set everything up, and they were professional writers. We couldn't even begin to.
How do you even get a camera in the ring? How do you have people in the ring shooting? Like, how is that even happening?
Well, Denis was shooting in the cage underneath that thing that they stand on when.
Is this like a shark cage kind of thing?
Exactly.
Like where you're shooting from?
Yeah, and then we had cameras on either side on dollies. Then we had the high camera, and then we had all these.
Did you ever get in the shark cage?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I would have. I mean, I just didn't have the time. I mean, you know, we're grown-up kids, or maybe not grown-up kids, we're kids. But we command, you know, a lot of people and have to be responsible. So Buddy Joe and Brian Allison, our wrangler, were basically responsible for safety, you know, not just the stunts. And you know, again, I've worked with Buddy Joe since Red Corner, so we've done so many things together. You know, and he's really annoying because he always has these great ideas that I don't want to hear. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be disrespectful, but you know, he knows film, and he just brings so much to it, and he knows what can be done and what can't be done. And when we realized that we needed to do another day of bull riding, he and Brian got us some other bulls, right, Buddy Joe? Yeah, and so that gave us one more day for these 7 rides on a 23-day schedule.
Do the bulls get tired? Do they, is there a moment where they don't want to perform, or the bulls like, no, we love throwing people. That's what, like, we live for this.
If you believe in reincarnation, come back as a bull in the PBR. They are so well treated, and they're very valuable, and they're loved by the people who, you know, own them and who care for them. I mean, it's similar.
Got it.
Yeah. And so what they did, you know, they have 8 seconds of bucking off a 150, 180 pound human.
Right. But they're
1,500 pounds.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? And so it looks fearsome, but it's not. But we also had the American Humane Association people there. We had all the, we do all the things and all the safety protocols.
I'm not scared about the bulls. I'm scared for the humans.
The humans, it's scary. I mean, it is scary. And, you know, again, you go back to faith. You know, most of the riders there, you know, they get in that prayer circle. That's why I shot it. I shot it for that. And also, Neil, he's so good. I'm telling you, you know, you go around and everybody's being real serious. And what's Neil like? Is this over yet? You know, like when T says, he reads this thing from the Bible. You happy now?
Right.
I mean, it was expressing his anger and his disappointment, and his frustration, and his lack of belief. And for him, he had to find something that he could believe in, in order to find his way back. And I thought he did that. He owns it, so I'm not surprised he did it beautifully.
Right,
but he did the part when he didn't have faith as well. Big
question. What was it like working with actor Jon Avnet?
Jason's getting back at me for something I said to him about when he was in his dad's movie. First of all, as you probably can guess, I'm not much of an actor.
I thought you were pretty great.
However, Neil is a really good actor. Sarah is a really good actress. And I didn't even learn the lines, which I had written. And and the reason I didn't learn the lines, I don't know.
Real nice.
but they were so sweet and gentle to me. And the only really good moment I could come up with was like a director moment where Neil says, doctor.
Yeah.
I go 1 second. And it was just a dismissive director going 1 second.
I noticed that. That was great.
See, Neil, And then the other thing, which was so interesting, because I spent my life with actors. I love actors.
Yeah.
This is my world, our world, we all. And at the end of the scene, as Dr. Ager has to leave, Neil says, doctor, and he apologizes. And so I'm standing there like a piece of wood, useless, lack of professional performer. And I look at Neil and he's really upset. And he shakes my hand and I'm moved by him being upset. I'm moved emotionally.
Yeah, he's acting.
And I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to be moved. I'm supposed to be sitting there in the chair looking at them going, great work, being a cheerleader. And it was really uncomfortable.
I find this moment happens to be every time I'm working with an actor and I'm for a moment like, do you want to run these few words for a second? We're trying on a line or something. And then I make the mistake of making eye contact with them. And all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, they're acting back at me. And it scares the living crap out of me. And it reminds me why I can't do that.
Well, one of the reasons I could do that moment with Neil well, I didn't have anything to say. So all I had to do was look at him. I love Neil. I mean, I've worked with this guy forever and I know him so well. And he's just a truly great person. So he's looking at me and I have no protection.
I asked you this the other day and I'm curious if you have an answer to this. Why do you think directors are always cast as doctors? Barry Levinson, Harold Ramis, Scorsese. Like there's I had more in my head the other day, but there's tons of them that we always only play doctors in movies.
It's the limitations of our craft. Neil said, "Why don't you play the part?" I'm going, really? And we didn't have to bring another actor in. I feel bad about not hiring somebody else, but it's also easier because I'm right there. And if it's late or it
Honestly,
goes a day
if there was going to be one Jewish character in Oklahoma, I think he should be a doctor.
Well, okay. Well, if you want to get personal, I named him after my own doctor.
Oh, really?
Who died last year and was a wonderful guy. So it was a little, small thing for Dr. Ager, who was a wonderful guy.
John, I'm so grateful for this movie. I'm so grateful that I was here tonight to watch it. It was an extraordinary movie. This movie you've played this in the Midwest. Does it just kill? Does it crush?
Yes. I mean, it really plays very, very well. We had a screening at the USA Film Festival. They gave me a Career Achievement Award. And thank you. And we played it there and we played it twice in Utah. Yeah, I mean, people who are more familiar with this world, it really rings true to them from what I saw.
The Career Achievement Award feels weird, doesn't it?
Really?
Right?
Really weird, yeah.
I think about actually all the things you were talking about time in this movie when I hear you even say they gave me a Career Achievement Award, because I know simultaneously you're extraordinarily moved by it. Well, but it also feels strange, yeah? It
feels strange, and also, you basically feel really, I mean, I can give the Career Achievement Award to people who I like much better than the work I've done. But the big thing is, the gift is to be able to make these movies. And for me, part of what was fun about this was I wanted to do a movie that would be in theaters, because the last movie I did, which it worked on for a long time, it played in 30 theaters for 2 weeks or whatever, went right into COVID. And it was pretty depressing. We had no P&A. This movie is going to be in 2,000 theaters. And Angel.
Bravo.
Yeah. And for all of us, who make movies and have seen a major shift in behavior, that was something I wanted, because one of the great days of my life was sitting in the middle of this theater with Tom Costantino, looking at an early cut of this on the greatest screen in the world with the greatest sound in the world, the DGA. Yeah. Where I said, yeah, that's the two shot I wanted. That's from the Westerns. That's me and Alexander Payne, muttering about, Sam Fuller and Ray and Hawks and Ford, all these great filmmakers. And you look at it, and in that big screen, you go, yeah, that looks good. That expresses something it's not that it's not there on a smaller screen. It just doesn't have, I guess it's the nature of exhibition. It's the way a painting is viewed with a proper light.
Well, I loved watching this movie with an audience tonight too, because it gets really emotional, and you start to feel that thing that a movie can do, where you're somehow psychically picking up on what everyone else is feeling around you.
That's the communal experience. That's the thing that's been, very, very exciting to, all of us involved with the film, which is, as when you hear Last Rodeo, you don't think it's going to be an intimate drama, which talks about things like time, faith, friendship, mourning. Those are the ones you could sneak into it. And that's part of, again, what I liked about what Neil and Derek had written, which is it gave me a format to do, in a way, an action movie with characters, where the characters were people that I could relate to, that had flaws I could relate to, that struggled and were recognizable. And this was very important, because I like to do things that are humorous. Michael T., you scene stealer, you dog, you. When we were shooting the scene with him, with Neil, when he if he hears that Neil wants to ride, at 50 whatever years of age, and he starts laughing, and I made the camera not move.
Yeah, you got to let him leave frame and come back.
But don't, and Neil is so there, and he's just like dying.
Yeah.
And T brought this whole world there. And, and I just went, thank God, because that gave me the ability to release the tension. You got a sick kid, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
What's worse than that? And can you laugh? Well, in reality, we do laugh. When you're in a hospital in the middle of an operation, my daughter was in an 8-hour operation. I spent 2 hours talking with my son-in-law about the color of his headphones.
Right.
Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
It's a distraction. What Irene Bedard, who I think is wonderful in the movie, when she's talking about her mother. Yeah, Irene. I wrote the scene. I gave it to her. I said, take a look at it. Do you think this makes sense? She made some modifications, and she said, yeah, it's good. I went, okay, good. Then we shot it, and Jonesy was there, and, it was very, very solid. And then I thought, does this belong in the movie? Because as you're getting, as you're cutting towards the end, and I was thinking, is this me because I'm such a, pretentious director, wanting to put out my view of world and time, or is it narrative? I mean, is it taking us deeper into the understanding of this world where 8 seconds is 32 seconds in the last ride?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's terrifying. And her mother died, and it was like she was gone. And it wasn't like she was gone. She was gone, but her whole life wasn't nothing. Yeah. And how do we understand time? And how do we understand the past? I mean, they're big questions. I can't purport to answer them, but I do think it's sometimes useful to ask them, but is it narrative?
Right. Jon, a moment ago you said, what have I done? When we were talking about the award, and I'm going to close with this. What I really want to point to is beyond, and look, you've made extraordinary films, you've made extraordinary television. Your films and your television have been nominated and won so many Oscars, so many Emmys. But what I see in you, what I'm really grateful for, in addition to that, I see also in this film This is a film about a hero in the old-fashioned sense of the word. And when I think of you, I think about the work that you've done with the AFI. I think about the work that you've done here in the DGA. I think about the way that you stand up for us in the same way that the main character of this film is standing up for his family and is trying to find a way to defend them and get a win. And what I want to close with, and you don't get to say these kinds of things publicly, but it's something that I feel deep in my heart, and I think anyone who knows you, who's here in the audience, actually, whether they know you or not, you're a person who goes out and defends directors and people in this guild, and you're responsible for us having the healthcare that we have when you are defending it. You're responsible for us having the residuals that we have when you defend them. And I'd just love to end not only with a round of applause for this film, but a round of applause for you as a human and everything you've done for us. Jon Avnet.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.